So guys, one question I get all the time is where do I get practice data? Where do I get data that I can just practice on if I want to be a data analyst, or maybe I am a data analyst and I want to get better and more effective? Well, this video is for you. There's a download for this if you want to follow along. And if you enjoy my videos, maybe you want to watch anyway. Stay tuned. I'm going to be taking a situation that is similar to one that I came across in real life and used Excel to solve a problem. If you're on that career path, it might make sense to watch this. Or if you just enjoy my videos and you want to watch just to learn a little bit more about the topic, welcome aboard. So this problem is involving storage. As you see here, we have our location, section, row, shelf, and it's called space in our inventory report. So we've got a list of goods. Sometimes we've got multiple lists of goods that were produced on different dates, right? And we want to know what's the capacity of these locations, which translates to this somehow. We got to look. Then we got to see what to throw away. So as we see here, we have a date of production that's kind of in a weird century, day, month, year format, as well as a shelf life, so we can see if it's expired and we can toss it. And then truly, what is the capacity of each one of these spaces? And finally, maybe propose a reorganization of the space. Are things too spread out? How might it look physically to somebody who wants to reorganize it, right? So I'm going to start looking at this sheet. And we've got these location, section, row, shelf. Looks like it's concatenated over here into space. So let's get the actual name that fits into here so we can do a lookup. Add a column here. Call it lookup. And I'm going to use concat. What concat does is simply takes an array and concatenates it for you. One thing I might want to do is make sure I'm dealing with unique values. For that, I'll do a unique formula. And I see the count here is 36. This is 37. So it looks like we have a duplicate here. And just by eyeballing it, I see that it's this. Nope, it's this one. So again, when you get data, a lot of time it's not perfect, right? So you'll have something like this that you might have to go and ask about, right? Makes the job fun, right? So anyway, since I have this unique array formula, array meaning, if I type down here, I get a spill, right? I'd rather have it in individual cells. So I'm going to copy, paste special values right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the spaces that have inventory next to this by first doing a unique formula, going over here, and getting unique space. Again, copy, paste special values. Maybe move this up one. So now I can do a lookup, even though they're side by side, right? I think one important thing to do would be to make sure that all these spaces are present here to make sure our naming convention assumption, right, to concatenate is correct. So what I'll do is do a VLOOKUP. I know some of you might be partial to just lookup or to XLOOKUP. This is a habit, guys. This is something I developed over 20 years. I don't know if I'm changing. I'm sorry. Just use whatever lookup method you want. So go over here, lock that. And I know some people are going to think this is lame. But, obviously if it reports back, it means it's present in there. So doing F2 will show me what the deal is with the formula. This one doesn't look right. Yeah, use the mouse. So sue me. Okay. I know exactly what's wrong. I put a 1 instead of a 0. So it's not looking for exact matches. It's looking for approximate matches. Maybe I'm just getting used to typing and talking at the same time. There we go. Look, we've got some NAs. Now, just by eyeballing, of course, I can see that this, and this are the culprits. But I think to be more precise, what I'll do is, let's say we had 1 million of these cells, right? I'll do a lookup back to this over here. So yeah, there are a couple ways to find the culprit here. I think that one way would be just to, if we have a small list versus a large list. I'll go through the large list example because I think it's more thorough. And, obviously if you have 50,000 rows, you might not want to piecemeal it like this. Sometimes you just have strays, right? And in this case, we have 3 strays. And you can see what's in common here. We have the word center in them, right? Now look in the raw data. And I can see it right there. We kind of get the idea, right? We see that it's very similar, but it does not include the X when referring to the inventory location. So for that, we're going to change this formula. Instead of going out to E30, we're going to go out to D30. And just for the ones that have center in them. Of course, what we could do is do an auto filter, contain center, and go and just fix it one by one here. I can copy and paste that formula and it applies there. Since I copy paste special values, I have to remember, sorry, I have to do the unique again. And this VLOOKUP remembered the column. So now we have everything. And if we wanted to check for NAs and it was a big long list, you can just do this auto filter and then control end. Gets you the very last option, which sometimes is NA. In this case, we don't have NAs. So we're good. So now we can safely say that this lookup is fine. Now, one thing to consider is, let's say that the inventory report doesn't list places that don't have anything in them. So if that's the case and something pops up here and we've got an incorrect naming convention in here, that could cause a problem later. But maybe this is just a one-off analysis, right? So now we have the capacity and the lookup. And we can make a column over here if we wanted to, capacity, and do a lookup. I'll do XLOOKUP just to appease XLOOKUP fanatics, right? I know you're out there. For that, we want 2 separate. Here we go. So the default settings is always an exact match, top to bottom, with XLOOKUP. So here we have capacity, and I mean, it doesn't really do us any good here because these are not aggregated. As you see here, we have 3 different instances of this product that total 37, and different dated production. So we don't want to just aggregate this. We have to solve this mystery here of the date. So a lot of times in ERP systems, you'll have a weird 1, right, for date, and that's the century code. So we don't really want that here. What I'm going to do is make a copy of this column, put it over here. And you can do a lot of things here. I mean, since we know that these are numbers, not dates yet, we can subtract by the century code and we're left with the rest, right? That's one thing you can do. Probably a better thing to do is to just go straight to text to columns. Get a fixed width, because these are all the same width, right? You've got 1 century code, 2 for the day, 2 for the month, and 2 for the year. Which is why I think they have the century code. I'm going to use a mouse, don't kill me. So we're going to parse that. And I'm actually going to not parse the rest of this. And I'll show you why. And I think there's a mistake here. It says y wide should be 4 y's because we have 2024, right? That's my bad. So for this first code, I don't want to import it. I'm going to say do not import column skip. And I'm going to hit Alt P to get a preview. There we go. Much better. We're just using the keyboard. So for this one, I want to go to the format. Yeah, I want to go to date. I want to make this date. And then I want day, month, year. Right there. So let's finish it and see what it looks like. Here we go. And then it's useful to have a separate helper column because then I can kind of eyeball these, right? This is conventional that they have date, month, and year. Now in the US, we do month, date, and year. Why? I don't know. One of those things we do because we got freedom. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, these are looking good. And I'm just going to copy and paste this over. Not as values though. I'll paste and it turns them to dates. So I don't need that anymore. So now we have a shelf life. How do we tell if it's expired or not? And one thing we could do is put today's date in here, control semicolon, and write a little formula. If today minus date of production is greater than shelf life, it is expired. If it's not greater, then it's not expired. Yeah, this, you can just eyeball this. This should be not expired. I'm going to copy both of these down all the way. And we see that this is expired. And even if you wanted to put by how many days, there we go. This is 369 days expired. Some of these are really bad. So, you know, we know that we can exclude those. Anything that's expired. I didn't mean to delete all that. So I'm just going to copy this, paste special values, and I'm going to get rid of these. So I just want to do a pivot table to aggregate all this. Of course, we prefer using the keyboard. So for that, you have to do the right-click button, which I have programmed up here, and D. And you have to select off of it and back on it. So I know that's ridiculous. Just welcome to my world. So we got space, goods, number of boxes, and I want this to be a filter. And I'm going to drag it down, folks. Sorry to disappoint everybody. And I want it as expired, no. And that excludes all the ones that are expired. So this will be my new table of reference. We've got Alt JYPT, Alt JYTD, Alt JYPR. So that gets it in a format that I like. I prefer to have it as with repeating. I like to have it tabular. And I don't like to show subtotals. So we can't really work with the pivot table that well. I prefer just to copy it and paste it over here. So these are the results of my pivot table. I know people might be doing this differently. You might want to do it differently and reach through the screen and strangle me, but honestly, whatever you feel comfortable with, there's no one right way, right? So make a new sheet and put that there. And for those of you who don't like it right there in A1, I'll start there, and we'll get rid of grid lines too. And we'll call this sheet something else. We'll call this non-expired inventory. There we go. So now we've got capacity by location, we have our lookup, and we have the number of boxes that are actually there that are good goods. Right here we want to say what, to throw away, we can roll this up to the warehouse folks and say, look, here are the locations and the goods and number of boxes you guys can toss. So there we go. We've identified the capacity of current storage location, determined how much to throw away. Yeah, so back here, I think what we want to do is say current inventory. There we go. So we'll do a lookup. And here we see, this location is free. We don't have any inventory in it. And how do we check that? Let's do a nested formula. We're going to do if error. So if error, show me a 0. And that's kind of the beauty of XLOOKUP. If we use XLOOKUP, making a case for XLOOKUP here. If not found, put 0. Does the same thing. And that totals 164. That totals 181. So it looks like there's something weird going on here. Does anyone see what it is? One thing we can do is do another lookup. Go back here, and then period instead of comma. So what are the differences here? We'd see a 0 if they're the same. If not, we would see a number. So let's eliminate the zeros to see where our problem is. These spaces here, we have a problem. Why? I'm going to paste that down here so I can look. Why is that a problem? Since we did a pivot table, it shouldn't duplicate it, but let's make sure. No, I think it's just because it was the first one. When you do this, guys, make sure to just do the headers. Don't be like me. So yeah, that is not a problem. This one is a problem, and I see that it's listed twice here. Yep, we've got 4 instances of it, and we've got different goods, right? So the problem is that we shouldn't have goods here. So let me back up to my pivot table. All right, so we have a pivot table with goods. We don't need goods. We just need the total number of boxes, right? So let's get rid of goods. Then we have our aggregate, right? But we don't have duplicates. And if you want to check that, it's HL, HD. And then let's put the goods back in there, and I'll show you what I mean. There's our dupes right there. Goes away when it's not there. So I'm going to paste that over here in place of that. And for non-expired inventory, I guess you can't undo a creation of a sheet. I always like things centered. See my adjust and align video for more details on that. So here we have a total of 181. That matches our pivot table. Which means now we can do a lookup and say current inventory. And I show a 217 versus 181. Why is that? More issues, right? And just from our experience before, we want to make sure that all these locations are unique. You might see it already, but I'm going to highlight duplicates. There you can see that DCA center is duplicated. I think we found that before, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete this entirely. And there we have our 181. From this, we can see how full our space is. I'm just doing some math. H divided into G. And make it a percentage. Call that percent full. Back to our objectives, we've identified the capacity, determined how much of what to throw away, and proposed a reorganization of the space is what we're on right now. So that if you go back here, you can see what's full, what's not. Maybe we want to do some conditional formatting here. So we'll do color scales, and anything that's red is at a 0. You know, that's one way to look at it to see how full each one of these sections is. Another way to aggregate it is to do yet another pivot table. And that's where this comes in handy. I'll go all the way out here to this column H. We want location, section, row, and shelf. And then values, we want box capacity and current inventory. And again, Alt, JY, PT, tabular, Alt, JY, PR, repeated, Alt, JY, TD, get rid of subtotals. Zoom out a little bit here. So then we can scrunch up the location to see what percentage full we are by location. And you can do a calculated field for that too. So this is percent full, and the formula is going to be box capacity. No, it's going to be current inventory divided by box capacity. There we go. Make that a percentage. So we see that section or location in AB is 13% full, CB is 4%, and DC is 14%. So depending on that, you probably just would want to present this to the folks who manage this to see where they want to ideally put their products. Even drill down to section of ABA, ABB, ABC. See which locations are what percent full. We don't really have a map of the storage unit, so we don't really know where all these are. If you had an idea of where these locations were. Maybe C is the central location. You want more put in that location. So maybe they want to create a project to move some of this inventory from AB to CB. So you would make that part of your presentation. So that's it. I'll make this available for folks to download for free and practice. Let me know if you liked it. Thanks a lot.